Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special edition of the Cheats Movement podcast. We have a wonderful conversation. We are joined by Jenn and Jazz, super Knicks. I think I'm a super fan. They are OmniFans. This is OmniFan.
I love how you put that.
It's amazing what they're building. I'm also joined because I can't talk Knicks. I can't talk Knicks without a special guest too. My brother, you know him from the Cheats Movement podcast, KB
Absolutely.
the God.
Absolutely. So, Knicks all day, man. Let's talk about it.
I'm excited about this. Jenn and Jazz, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
It's our pleasure.
Yes,
our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
We got so much to talk about because
where do we start?
Oh, we go get into it. We go get it because I know. Look, y'all, I know how it all works in regards to how active both of you have been. But let's start with what's happening now.
Okay.
Clearly, last season was a season like no other. I recently saw you both were back in the Garden. You were back in the Garden for just within the last 2 weeks. They've opened it up to limited fans. Yes. Tell us a little bit about what's it like. They hadn't had a basketball game in the Garden in basically a
little over a year or almost under a year. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, about that.
So how was the experience of being in the Garden?
Well, first of all, the way I can describe it is kind of like it was a homecoming.
Right.
I mean, there was something in the air down from the security guards to the work, the workers in the ushers, the people serving food, any ticket what are they? Ticket agents that are walking around. Like everybody is just extremely warm, and you can see like this glow, and everybody was like almost on the verge of being emotional because it was almost like you're seeing your extended family member that you haven't seen in like forever. Right. I mean, so it was truly a homecoming. There was an electricity in the air that if you've been to the Garden, you know what that feels like. But imagine not seeing your family for a year.
Yeah, right.
With only 2,000 fans, it would feel like, a little
empty.
dull. And while, it's not the full, Garden intensity, man, these Knicks fans, we came out and we made our presence known. And it just felt like Jen said, like we were back home, back where we were supposed to be. And it felt really safe. I will say that.
Yes, very safe.
And it was rocking too. That was the Indiana game, right?
So on.
Say that again?
Was that the Indiana game? The first game with the fans?
The first game was the Indiana game.
Right.
Yeah, they was rocking in there too.
And then we went to the Pistons. So yeah, the Indiana game, that was the one that we went to.
Right.
I
can hear the fans over the TV watching. Y'all was rocking.
Yeah, that game was crazy because it was a nail biter, and to see that live in person.
Oh my gosh. And I also found out that Sabonis was like our enemy number one.
Well, it's a budding rivalry, right, between Randall and Sabonis.
Every time Sabonis touched the ball, like there was boos up the wazoo.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. But that's so good to hear, and because not only did you enjoy yourselves, but you felt like you had a safe, comfortable time because we know NYC's been through it. NYC's been through it,
without a doubt.
And being able to get back even for a couple of hours and root on the team that you love so much. You have built an amazing community even during this pandemic. Like, so you tell me a little bit about the community that you've built surrounding the Knicks and how it is applied to, having to build that community while you weren't in the Garden, now being able to start to really open up, because you were saying a little bit off the air, a lot of this is still building. It's still new in regards to what you're doing with OmniFan, but you've started to build a pretty amazing Knicks community. Tell us a little bit about the community and how you've been able to manage this difficult time.
Right. So absolutely. So we started on Facebook actually like a few years ago. So I think probably like 2015 was when we first started our Facebook group, Fort Knicks. It was then called Fort Knicks. So we're from Fort Greene, Brooklyn. So the great our neighborhood, and Fort Greene we go hard. So, and also to separate ourselves, I think at this point, I think the Nets were just coming across the river. So, we wanted to establish ourselves as a Brooklyn Knicks fan group. So we started on Facebook, right? I almost had a Freudian slip.
Hey.
I don't know where that came from. But so we started on Facebook, and we realized that, even though there's so many groups on Facebook, we still realize, like, okay, we have a special bond, a special connection with the people who are a part of this group. So we're like, okay, as Knicks fans, we all know, one thing that we've repeatedly felt over the years is a little bit, I would say, underappreciated. Right. We have been supportive of a team that has not done so well in the recent past. And I would say for the past the better part of 20 years, we've not been a winning franchise, And so we were kind of teetering with the fact that, all right, we want to employ some kind of loyalty rewards program. This is still conceptual at this point. We had no clue, but we knew that we didn't want to work for somebody else for the rest of our lives either. So we were like, okay, let's see what we can. How do we merge the two? So obviously, you can't just start cold turkey. So we started, it was our side hustle at first. But so we went into our group and we started this little trial. We call it it's our grassroots trial for all intents and purposes. But so we pretty much went through this month-long competition. We called it the Ultimate Fan Competition. And we wanted to see who would be most engaging in our group and wanted to be rewarded for what their engagement.
Right, for likes, comments, shares, things of that nature. So rewarding fans for doing what they already do, which is talk about the Knicks on social media.
Right. Exactly. And so we found though that we did a survey. We got like the 15 most engaged people from the group. And so we did this contest with them. And so we saw like our engagement rates triple, our member rates like went through the roof too. So we're like, okay, this has some legs, but we needed to get a system that automated all these computations in the back.
Because we were doing it manually. We were literally going through post by post and
this is 05, right? You're saying this?
No. This is 2015.
Oh, it was 15. Okay.
2015, 2015.
We were still doing it.
But you were still, it was hand to hand.
Yes.
It was fine work. We were still working at the time. So we were like, okay, well, we definitely have some legs here. We have to make some modifications. But this is something that we can definitely take full time.
Right. And we also saw that what it was creating was a lot of it was creating relationships between the competitors. Like not only were they competing, but it was like a friendly rivalry.
Right.
So like we're building relationships in addition to rewarding these people. So we're like, okay, we have to do something. So we went down, we went to our little we hunkered down and we really said, how can we make this our career? How can we elevate this? And so we decided that to do so, we would need an app that would kind of, compute things in the background. But that's, I guess, I don't know. Are we jumping?
No, you're right on track. You're right on track.
Perfect. Okay.
Because while you're doing this, you're learning that like you're saying, you're building not only friendly rivalry amongst fans, but a community of people that you're working with.
Yep. So in the interim, right. So we also host. So aside from the app, so while the app is being now we're now conceptualizing what we need to do to get the app, but in the meantime, we still have all these people that want to connect, face to face. So we hosted events, and that's kind of like where we got our real true connection with our following. We hosted watch parties at different sports bars. We do sweeps at the Garden. So like that's kind of like what we started becoming known for. So our events, that's where everybody connected. And we also try to incorporate, prizes and trivia and make it fun. Like we want to entertain everyone.
Right.
We want everybody to have a good time.
And now we fan event is just not like, showing up to a bar. Like, we always have a little game plan, some trivia questions, prizes, because, we want to keep it exciting and engaging, while we're there.
Right. Just fun. So, yeah. So then we made our Instagram account. We were a little bit late in doing that. But so we made our Instagram account. Like we are strong on Facebook in terms of our numbers. We come on our IG page and like, but we have a very highly engaged following, and that's what we love. We haven't bought any followers, all super organic, and that's what we love about our base. It's like we just flock together. We're like magnets.
Right. So I gotta ask the story, KB. I know you and I were talking about this as well, but where did the Knicks fandom start? How did it become? Because there's fans, there's casual fans, and then there's people like KB who I know have been diehard for a long time.
From the birth, man.
I'm probably the latecomer. I became a Knicks League Pass guy around 2006.
Oh, so I didn't know that.
So when you're talking about
right,
I mean, you mad late, man.
On the losing.
I was gonna say, so when you're talking about the difficult times, right?
Yes,
right. Yes.
Larry Brown was the coach and Isaiah Thomas. So it was the Larry Brown year and the Isaiah Thomas year. And that's when I became a fan. And so well, don't ask me how
I just
that
learned something new about you, Chiefs. I didn't know that, man.
God bless you.
Don't ask me how that happened, but it was a difficult time so far. And with some rays of hope. But how did it start for
so we were, growing up in Brooklyn, New York, basketball is, all around you.
Absolutely.
My father also played basketball collegiately. So we were always just basketball fans. And I have to say, when I was younger, I was a Michael Jordan fan. We need to get her. Like some kind of like MJ really like made me love basketball. But then as I got a little bit older,
KB, is that allowed?
Hey, I was a Jordan fan too. I was still a Knick diehard, but I'm still a Jordan fan. I mean, how could you not be a Jordan fan? The kid was super nice.
He's amazing. He is amazing.
But yeah, so then like the 90s Knicks, the Oakley, the Macy years, like they just embodied what being a New Yorker was about. And it was just like, not only was it just cool to be a Knicks fan, it felt like real, like part of a family, right? Exactly. Yeah, I mean, seriously, being a Knicks fan, especially during those years, which is what solidified our Knicks fandom, you felt like this was bigger than basketball. There's a certain code that you uphold and you live by it outside of basketball, off the court. You know what I'm saying? So there was something about the loyalty, the toughness, the grit of those years that solidified us as Knicks fans and has carried.
It's like a religion, man. Growing up in New York, it's like a religion to be a Knicks fan. You know what I mean?
Because KB, you were since birth, right? You were just birthed
out the gate, man. Right.
So here's the thing, because I feel like I have explaining to do real quick. Because I was a basketball fan my entire life, like played, like enjoyed it. But because we're in Virginia, I tend to have been a regional dude. Like I'm a regional. So I grew up rooting for the Orioles because they were the closest. You know what I mean? And national and so forth. So we had the Bullets at, growing up, it was mostly the Bullets, and then it became the Wizards. And I just couldn't do it. Like, I was a fan of basketball. So I was like, so I started watching players. And so when you talk about those teams, the Oakley, Oakley went to Virginia Union. So it was like, when you talk about Oakley and you talk about Anthony Mason and you talk about the Pat team, like I knew all the teams, but I just wasn't I didn't have that. I'm gonna put my stamp on it. Until they were real bad.
Which is so interesting.
It's so bad.
They needed more sympathizers.
Well, quickly, I'll tell you what it is. Because again, I was a players guy, and we always had a couple of moves every, especially in those years that were the dark years. We would have moves where we were like, yo, this is it. Like, this is, I'm talking about before Melo. I mean, y'all remember the Tracy McGrady, remember the Tracy McGrady, Eddie House trade?
Oh, of course.
And I was looking at players like, Steve Francis was my guy. Steve Francis was my guy.
We got everybody on the tail end of
it was.
Right, that was the thing,
It was, and in those early years, it was Penny Hardaway was on the tail end.
Exactly.
There's a part of me that I know that I had to be like, yo, this is, but we're gonna get into some of that. Let's fast forward into where we are now, because I know you love this year's Knicks team.
Oh my God!
I know you love this team.
Oh my gosh, we love it. Yep, go ahead.
What about this year's team that draws you in? That's different from years past.
Well, first of all, they want to win. Okay. You actually see it.
Right.
There was a difference. Those Fizdale years, I'll go to the most recent.
The Fizdale years were a mess because we are losing by 25, 30 points, and you have guys laughing on the bench. You have our coach smiling and joking, like, We have a fundamental coach now who was here during our old glory years, because we weren't around for the championship
for the 70s.
Yeah.
The Van Gundy years were some of our best years as Knicks fans. And as a little older, we were in high school during those years, and that's how we became known as the Knicks sisters. But yeah, like this team reminds us of, it's like a reincarnation of those two of the late 90s, early 2000s Knicks. Where guys like to have fun. Like they try some new stuff, so it's not like super duper. I mean, yes, it's fundamentally sound, but they're creative. They're full of energy, and I like that. Like the Marcus Camby, the Latrell Sprewells, like that's what these guys remind me. But I'm also taken aback by some of the younger guys' maturity, like quickly.
Right.
His maturity's crazy, and I love how he's like in control. He's confident when he's on the court. He makes a difference.
Yeah, he makes decisions that veteran players make. And while granted, he's still sometimes has things to learn, but
absolutely
his mindset, where he's thinking, it's of a veteran mentality,
and that seems to be the collective for the collective. So we just like the poise, we like the winning mentality, and the fact that they're not giving up on any game. Like,
that's a key difference.
You know what I'm saying? We're not just allowing a blowout. Yeah, we might get blown out. Now, granted, I think only like 3 times this season we've gotten blown out by like 15 or more. So that's
that's an improvement.
That's an improvement in itself. But I still like that we're playing through. The entire game. I like that we have heart.
And defense.
Woo!
Hey, there it is. That's the key right there.
Yeah. Right there.
KB, jump in. What do you think is the difference on this year's Knicks team?
You know what I like? I like how they interact with each other as a like on the bench. If somebody scores, everybody's wilding.
Yes.
Everybody's high fiving. What I really like is after the games when they're interviewing, it's usually Julius Randle.
Mm-hmm.
And they riding for him, you know what I mean?
Yes,
like especially to get the All-Star push. They was like, if this dude right here is not an All-Star, it's a problem. And they were all over there doing it. You know what I mean? So that's what I really think the difference is. They've all bought in so far. I mean, they're all on the same page and they all go hard for each other. So that's and it translates into their games on the court.
Yes.
Talk to me about Julius Randle. So we just had All-Star Weekend.
I would love to.
Yeah.
We just had All-Star Weekend.
Yes.
Julius had a well-deserved All-Star nomination. And
absolutely.
The interesting thing about, everybody, like you said before the selections and all of that, it was like the team was really riding for him and rooting for him. And you could see it and you could feel it. And I think all of Knicks Nation was riding for him.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about the Randle selection, which I think, gives him a lot more pride, is that he was selected. Like being a starter is great. We know that. But being a starter is still a popularity contest, right?
Absolutely.
Like it's by votes.
Absolutely.
So you looked at, some of the players that were getting a lot of votes. Some of them hadn't even suited up this year, right?
Right.
So the fact that Randle was selected by the coaches and his, and the peers and everybody's riding with him, it's like he really earned that spot.
He really did.
I mean?
And they're recognizing it throughout the league.
So talk to us a little bit about the level of play that he has changed, because it's night and day from last year to this
absolutely,
year.
Right? Absolutely.
Julius Randle, and we were just saying this one of the other days, he definitely is the most improved player from last season. And even though last season he was putting up great numbers in terms of points per game, but you can tell how he has elevated his game. He makes smart decisions. He's turning the ball over less. He's getting his other teammates involved. His assist numbers he's like playing that point forward role. He has really, really evolved, and I really think Tibbs and having Kenny Payne.
Kenny Payne. Yeah.
I really think that they've helped to center him and really point out where he needs to improve, because he is just the most improved player on the roster, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And granted, like Jazz said, see, one of the things that I picked up on with Julius Randle from previous to this season was that he's just a professional.
Yes.
He comes in and he's there to work. He does his job. And he did that last season, but not to the best of his ability. And he even felt it because I don't know if you guys read. I'm sure you guys have.
Yeah, the players
his
tribute
love
piece.
letter to the, you know, pretty much to the fans and to the city.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily show it because he's a kind of a private person and he handles a lot of things inwardly, but you could see he wasn't happy with himself even. He reflected it. But this season, you just see a light in Julius's eyes that you didn't see before. Yeah, he had some of the moves, you know, he put up the numbers, but like Jazz said, he's making his team better. He's leading, he's being a leader.
Yeah, it is.
And that's the capacity that we need Julius Randle to step into because right now he's playing like a franchise player. He wasn't playing like that last season.
Right.
He was on the trading block for a lot of fans. And, you know, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, you know, based on his performance last
coming into the season,
I was like, okay, let's see what trade packages. But he has solidified himself as a franchise player. He needs to be a part.
He belongs here. He belongs here. He belongs here.
In order for him to elevate, I think one of the things that we've all recognized, that he recognized himself, was he basically had to find himself. Like he had to find like his last year, he had got that contract. He felt like he put a lot of pressure on himself.
Yeah.
To get 20 plus and 10 every game by any means necessary.
Right.
Also, I think what accompanied that was he felt like he had to do it all himself.
Yeah. Right.
This year's team, it does feel like, and I mean, he's clearly the man, but it definitely feels like other players have stepped up so he can actually let the game come to him. Even so much, I know me and KB sometimes be yelling at the screen like, yo, Julius got to like, come on, because we know he has it in him. But so sometimes we be looking and be like, is he being too deferential?
Passing up good open shots sometimes. Like, okay, you don't have to be so unselfish.
Right. But who have you seen step up? Who have y'all seen step up to allow Julius to actually play his game?
Well, Quickly has definitely stepped up. You know, it's about trust. I feel like, people are hard on Elfrid Payton too, but I feel Elfrid Payton has stepped up in a big way because
KB is hard on Payton.
He infuriates me.
As you should be, though. As you should be, because you know what? He's not a young guy in this league anymore. He's a veteran.
And that's my point. You're not a rookie. You're a veteran.
I agree. But before, I think he got injured about 3 games ago. But before that, the last 10 to 15 games prior, Elfrid Payton was stepping up. I mean, but it was also just him driving to the basket. See, we gotta stop playing that shooting game all the time and get to the basket.
That perimeter run from side to side. If you don't have somebody driving in, to create the diversion and then pass it out,
or to score, break down the defense and score, because they're not looking for him to be, cutting down guys and driving down the middle of the lane and dunking or getting easy layups. So that's what I've seen Elfrid Payton do, and I feel like that's made Julius Randle's game a lot easier. I also feel like IQ. And that was kind of, we didn't know. He's a rookie. You know what I'm saying? But he's a pleasant surprise that he knows how to orchestrate plays on the floor.
And the D Rose trade.
And the D Rose, oh my God, D Rose.
Yeah, I wanted to know how y'all felt about that trade. I was going to ask that about the D Rose trade.
Yeah, the D Rose trade was to us a no-brainer. It was a win-win situation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
We like Dennis Smith Jr. We think he has a bright future in this league, but for to get Derrick Rose for just Dennis Smith Jr. and I believe a second round pick,
it was not to mention
low risk,
super low risk and high reward, potentially, because look at his chemistry with Coach Tibbs. Now, granted, I will say D Rose, he was a little hot and cold. So far
he started hot. He started super hot, and then he's cooled off.
Hot again. So obviously he's fitting himself into this rotation, into this system. But I feel like nicely. You know what I'm saying? I feel like this is what our young guys also need. Like they want mentorship, especially Quickly. I mean, as a point guard, he says he can play any position. I do think he's a true point guard just by the decisions that he makes on the court. I just see it. He has that court vision. He's always thinking the game. He's always like a little step ahead of the defender, or he's making sure he's making that eye contact before he makes that pass. Like as they're running down the court, but. I think Quickly has also made his job a lot easier.
I think some other guys too. Support from every position, because you got to think about the 5 position, Mitch and Nerlens, and even Todd.
Oh my God, Nerlens!
The second point opportunities that they give us, and they're rebounding the ball. Then you also got to think about the two guard position. And you think about Alec Burks. And while I do think that is the one position where we definitely need to elevate it. We need to have a legit, solid two guard that can give us 20 a game. But Alec Burks, surprisingly, he's been pretty consistent.
And Bullock will have a game or two. Like Bullock.
Yeah, he's a little bit more inconsistent for me, but he's come through at certain critical points.
Right, he has.
The interesting thing that you said, and we'll go back to the Rose trade a little bit, because in Peyton in particular, because the heat was on. Like the heat was on Peyton. Because IQ was coming, and then you started hearing about the Rose, the Rose possibility. Yep. But I think that if you notice that switch in Peyton, it was like the talk had gotten to a point.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. Though.
Yeah, the talk had gotten to a point where Peyton was like, "Yo, I gotta go," and he really had picked his game up quite a bit. And then Rose came in IQ, but it was. That, like you were saying, that New York City pressure cooker. It was everywhere you turned on social. It was like, when is IQ gonna start? And so it was like Peyton really, he knew he had Tibbs trusted him, but it was one of those things where he had to pick it up, or I think it would have just closed in on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so too. But he rose to the occasion.
Yeah, and that speaks to Tibbs too, though, because a lot of coaches, if he wasn't so seasoned, he might fall to the pressure of all the fans saying, "Oh, start IQ. But he's solid in his thinking and why he's making these decisions. And so he's like, no, IQ is gonna be the spark off the bench. That's where we want him. That's where I think he's gonna make the most impact. And so you gotta, give it up to Tibbs for just sticking to his.
You know what? I never thought about that, but you're right. Because Fizdale or Hornacek, they would have folded to that.
Yeah, they would have folded.
They would have folded
off the top.
They would have folded, and you already know IQ would have been in every position.
So I know you ladies have a lot of thoughts on RJ. So talk to me about RJ and talk to me about Obi. Well, where are we with RJ and Obi?
Okay, so with RJ,
look at the deep sigh. Deep sigh.
We love him. We love him a lot because you know what? He's also shown that he can be a true professional, and the fact that this young man. He came in the way the flurry, the media frenzy around him, Zion, he didn't let that, get to his head. And even still right now, been performing, I would say a little inconsistently, but I will say RJ he's getting into his rhythm. He's getting into his rhythm now. And he's again attacking more. See, we need RJ, that's what he did well in college. Stop settling for the shot all the time. But if you have it, if it's open, take it. But I love how RJ's attacking. He's becoming more confident, and I want to see him. I want to see plays for him more. I want to see RJ being a number one option. I definitely want to see him do that.
My main, besides like just being a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more hungry, it's the fact for me, the major disappointment with him are the free throws. And. We did a little podcast on RJ's minutes in the fourth quarter and how he doesn't really Tibbs doesn't really play him so much in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And then I think of the very next game after that, he's missing clutch free throws.
There's two crucial free throws, right?
Right. Like so, I definitely he has to get that as a part of his game. He just has to improve.
Yeah, that's the weakest part.
And but we believe that RJ has such a bright future. I want him to be a part of this new Knicks team that's going to win the chip. Okay. He has the talent.
There it is. You got to speak it into existence.
Right.
We're gonna get that chip.
Right. We are. We're closer than we've been in years. I'll tell you that.
I think his decision, and if you notice, one of the things that's interesting about RJ is that there were times where I know me and KB, and I'm sure you both were as well, was yelling at the screen, stop shooting threes. Just stop shooting them.
Right.
And what he did, believe it or not, he still shoots them. But he shoots less of them and he shoots better shots.
Exactly.
And he's opened it up because he does drive hard. He drives hard left. If he can ever figure out that right, you know what I'm saying? If he can figure out that right. But he drives hard left, but he's shooting better quality shots.
Yes.
At one point, he was shooting long range three. Like when what was he, 0 for 21 or 1 for 21 or something?
Right.
We were looking at him like, what are you doing?
Right.
And I believe in the growth of him.
Yeah, we do too.
We have a lot of young players that I'm worried. I will be. We have a lot of young players that I'm worried if they're going to be able to make that next step. But I really believe that because RJ's so strong. He's literally
oh my God,
the frame, his strength. He's so strong, and I think he can make that next step.
See, the mindset. RJ, aside from his strength, see his mindset. He's not one that's going to be easily deterred or easily, distracted.
He's been groomed now for professional sports since like the Canadian national team.
Exactly.
Steve Nash type relationship with his dad. But the interesting thing too is RJ got a chip. He's got a chip on his shoulder because he wanted to be all rookie team. You know what I mean? He wants to be.
He should have been.
Right.
Yeah.
Say that.
But I agree with that.
Got a chip.
They stay getting robbed. But we're not going to.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Look,
what they did to our boy last night.
That's a good transition, KB, because speaking of getting robbed, 2 questions.
Yeah.
Did Obi get robbed last night?
Yes.
Absolutely.
In the dunk contest.
Of course.
And do you think, here's my question about going back to RJ's chip.
Mm-hmm.
Obi seems way too nice to me. Does he have a chip on his shoulder right now that's like, I got something to prove?
It's so funny. It's so funny that you pick up on that because I keep saying, like Obi, he just seems a little, like too. I don't want to call him goofy, but like a little goofy acting. Granted, he's young. He's supposed to be enjoying this. Like it's his first NBA season. But I want to see a little bit more maturity. A little. Yeah. I need to see a little bit more maturity from Obi, but I know what you mean. He hasn't hit that point. But you know what? RJ, I don't think was playing with a chip on his shoulder until the end of the first, his rookie season. So I think if Obi doesn't get any accolades, then we'll see Obi playing with a different intensity.
And there's a lot less. He came in with a lot less, on his shoulders.
Yeah, that's true.
Was
That's
number 3,
right?
In the Zion draft class, So Obi has a little bit less to prove. And like we were looking at RJ, it's like, oh, be our savior.
Right. He was a big piece. He was a big piece.
Let's face it, we still have more pieces to move.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely.
KB, give me what's your thoughts on Obi coming along? Like where are we in regards to, is he mean enough? Is he angry enough?
No, I want to see some more grit. He's from Brooklyn, man. He's supposed to be out there, strong arming dudes and trying to make his way. But, playing behind Julius is a real problem for him right now because he's not going to get that time that he needs to develop. So until they figure out how they're going to, because I forgot what game it was. He played Julius and Obi at the same time. It was towards the end of the game.
And we were yelling. We were like, why are they in the game? We were up big.
Right, we were blowing somebody out.
We were up big. And I was like, we were blowing somebody out. And I was like, why are they doing it? You were like, they want to play them together.
Yeah, I see that. Trying to see how that was going to work. So if they can figure that out, how he can get Obi and Julius to run at the same time, I think Obi's going to be a player, man.
Yeah, Obi's going to be a player.
He's built for it, too. He's built for it.
He is built for it. And going back to what you said about the grit, I mean, his pops doesn't get more. You can't get more Brooklyn than his pops.
Right.
So Obi has it somewhere. He needs to tap into it though. But he hasn't been pushed. He hasn't been pushed there yet. But so I think we're gonna see Obi evolve. Obviously, we're gonna see him evolve. He's so brand new, still green behind the ears. So, but
like you said, it's still his rookie season. You don't want to come in your rookie season trying to be the big boy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You take your spots as you get them.
So, exactly.
Yeah. Obi's gonna be all right though when it's said and done. He's gonna be all right.
He's gonna be a beast too.
No doubt.
So talk to me about the first half. We just finished All-Star Weekend. We just finished, I think, a very surprising first half of the season. One of the questions everybody's trying to figure out, I think the last week and a half, last 2 weeks going into the All-Star break answered this question for most Knicks fans. But the question was, are we going to be buyers or sellers in regards to going into the second half of the season? Because there was still this part, if we looked at it and we said, oh man, if we could move some of our young pieces and get some more players in, we could be sellers or we could be buyers. I think once we made that run going into the All-Star break, we're looking at the standings and we're 4 or 5 in the playoff picture. There's, at this point, we're playoff bound.
Yeah,
so
we
it was
are.
like, so we're looking at it like we're either going to be buyers, we're bringing in a piece, or we're not doing anything. We're going to keep this squad we got. But we weren't.
And that's
What talk to me about how just the first half of the season first of all, were you surprised that it's gone so well? And then what do you think going in the second half of the season, what we should do next second half of the season and going into next season?
Right. I mean, well, you know, as Knicks fans, at the beginning of every season, we're like, no, this is going to be our season. This is our year.
Yeah, we got that Dallas Cowboy syndrome.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it really did feel different, like, you know, in the off season, bringing in Tibbs, and it just felt like we had a different culture.
The whole front office.
So, like, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, it's a breath of fresh air. But we knew that this team had the capability to play at that level. But so it is surprising, but not at the same time.
Okay.
And then as far as like making more trades, I was not in favor of any of those trade scenarios that had to do with trading away OB, RJ, Mitch.
Right.
None of that. I'm not.
It was Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal was the name we heard the most about. Right?
Yeah, no, I wasn't. We weren't feeling any of those trade scenarios because these guys are just too young. I mean, to throw Obi in there,
Crazy.
Like, no, and that's what the Knicks. That would just be characteristic of the old Knicks. You know, It's a new day, and I'm glad that we didn't pull the plug on any of those moves. And I don't know which of those guys are free agents this season, but like you said, you either want to join us or that's it. We're not trading any pieces. We'll bring you on, but we're not giving anything up.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by very special guests, OmniFans. Jenn and Jazz are here. We're so excited to have them. KB the God is in the building. We are talking all things Knicks. We're so excited. Let's have a little bit of fun. Okay, because we talked about now. Look, I won't even go. KB, look. I won't even go do trivia because I know they do trivia nights and all of that stuff. Look, I won't go do trivia, but I'm gonna ask some fun questions. So we're going back through the kind of history of your Knicks fandom.
Okay.
Yes.
And KB, get in here too.
All right.
All-time favorite Knick and why?
Okay, I can answer this one first. My all-time favorite Knick is Chris Childs.
What?
Yes. Curveball. Yeah, no, the reason why is because, first of all, Chris Childs embodied, again, that New York spirit. Even though he's a Cali boy, he's a West Sider, he has that spirit. It's like a ride or die, super loyal, can-do attitude. And for me, again, as well, true basketball fans know the most important part of basketball is defense. And that's what Chris Childs prided himself in his defense. And I remember countless games, the Allen Iversons, the Gary Paytons, I mean, the Tim Hardaways, all of them. They hated going up against Chris Childs because, he wasn't, a top point guard in the league, but he brought it to you every night. He would not let you score easy baskets. So that's why he played hard and left his heart all out on the court. And we can't forget about Two Piece and a Biscuit, but R.I.P.
It was on my mind. I was getting ready to bring it up.
He did get the 2 piece in.
I loved every second of it too.
But all respect to there's that's just part of the story about the storyline.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just loved his toughness and his heart. That's it, and his grit. He was just one of those players to leave it all out on the court. Yeah, and so my favorite player was Allen Houston. Like I said, I was always to shooters. You know what I'm saying? His shot was just it like water. So, and then of course, his shot against Miami in the playoffs, that was just extra. It just extra solidified it. So yeah, Al was my guy and still riding strong. Let's go.
KB, who you got?
Mine's just the obvious, man. PE.
Patrick Ewing. Right.
I love PE, man. I'll kill somebody with PE right now today if they say something crazy about PE. Right. I'm not having it. Yeah. Yeah, but for the obvious reasons, man, Patrick Ewing was a monster.
Yes, he was.
Now, so you could probably guess based off my timeline, but I'm a Melo guy. I actually love. I love him.
Favorite Melo.
No, I love him.
Hold on. And you do look like Melo a little bit, man. I never noticed it.
Knock it off. No, I'm a Melo guy, and it was because we would watch him day in and day out. Like when we watch him day in and day out, it didn't really reflect the narrative. Like there was a narrative about Melo and effort and defense and doing all these, but when you watch him day in and day out, he came to hoop.
Exactly.
Right. He came to hoop. He would do anything
every day.
Like if one of the things I think people sleep on, but if you actually look at Melo's rebounding numbers when he was a Knick, he rebounded. He did. I think a little bit of what we were talking about was last season in Julius, where it just extend that to his career in the Knicks, where he felt like I had to do everything. You know what I mean?
He couldn't trust the Knicks.
The Knicks did Melo dirty.
Yeah, they really did.
Phil Jackson.
Phil Jackson. No, you're exactly right.
Yeah. And
all
Steve
right.
Nick. But moving on.
But Melo's my guy.
Yeah.
You might have answered this already because Chris Childs is a surprise. Most underrated Knick. Most underrated Knick in your entire fandom. Who's the most underrated?
I mean, I think I did kind of answer that.
So yeah, because Chris Childs is underrated. Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm trying to go back in the vaults. I mean,
Kurt Thomas was pretty underappreciated, I would say.
Thomas, okay.
I'm actually gonna go with Melo. Wait. Was the answer underappreciated?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Melo.
Or underrated, underappreciated.
Underappreciated. Yep.
I'm gonna go with Melo because, like you said, for all the numbers, for all the heart that he gave New York. I mean, I just don't understand some of these fans that just give him so much like flack.
The disrespect.
The disrespect on Melo's name is just out of this world. The fact that he was not on a roster for all those months, Melo is my answer.
That's
Who you got, KP?
Oh man, I'm gonna say Larry Johnson.
Ooh,
I'm LJ.
LJ was
Larry Johnson don't get the props he deserves.
It was after Grant Mama, Larry Johnson in Charlotte. It was after that, but he was still a good player.
Yeah,
he was still good. He was still very good.
Hey man, that game against Indiana where he hit the 4-point play. That game, he was hitting so many incredible shots. Man. You know what I mean? I mean, shots that he was like, "Come on, Larry, what you doing?" Oh yeah, good, yeah. But I don't think he gets the props he deserves.
I like Larry Johnson. I like Larry Johnson. He was an amazing, and he fit the Knicks like y'all were saying, the mold of that tough, gritty New York City fit in well.
He sure did.
You know who I think is very underrated? Because you know why I think he's underrated? Because every time MSG does that Affleck trivia question, that I only get right every once in a while. But one of the reasons I always get it wrong is because there's some stat that David Lee has that I had no idea.
Oh man, I forgot about
David Lee pulled off. We've been looking at the trivia joint, and they'll be like, "Oh, this Knick did this," and the answer, like, it'll be a bunch of legendary Knicks and David Lee. And I'll be like, "Yo, David Lee was legitimately underrated, underappreciated. I think he even made the All-Star team one year." And
he did.
Yeah. But people don't really, you know what I mean, just because he seemed like he was in and out. So
definitely not one of the most super celebrated, but should be more celebrated. I agree with that.
Right.
Who is your biggest New York Knicks what if? And when I say,
oh my God, well, can I just answer this? Steph Curry.
Oh my God.
Oh, we was that close.
Right. That is a good one. But I mean, maybe I'm thinking like somebody that was on our roster, like we're talking about, but it just didn't work the way we thought it was. Like,
you mean the biggest bomb, biggest disappointment?
It's just not even a disappointment, just like a what if. Like, what if this had really worked out?
Okay.
What if he stayed longer? What if he, I don't know. I don't know if I'm asking correctly, but
no. I'm trying to think.
I mean, I asked myself this question. Like, okay, I'm just gonna say Jeremy Lin. What if he didn't leave? If he didn't decide to face, the dollar money instead of staying home for the Knicks where it was really working for him. What if?
What? That's a great one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Great one because I'm always like, you know, you
Yeah,
got one. You got one. You got one. Anybody else got one? KB.
I'm trying to think. I mean, like the what if Eddie Curry didn't like just become a bum? You know, like I wonder what that would be like.
Eddie Curry has some games. Eddie Curry did have some games.
He did, but he was a bum.
He did.
Hey, my biggest what if is what if Patrick Ewing never got injured in that before that Spurs series?
Oh my God.
We would have washed the Spurs. We would have washed them.
Good one.
We would have won a championship.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Hello. What if we just stood with those guys?
Right.
One.
Yeah.
I got the one along the lines of the around the Melo trade. The year that Amari had before he got injured.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always what if Stoudemire didn't get hurt?
Mm-hmm.
He was a machine in New York.
He was a machine
until he got I love this game. You guys are great. You guys are great at this. You guys are great sports.
This is so much fun. Oh my goodness.
All right, I'm gonna do one more, and I know we're soft on time. I'm gonna do one more, and this will be a fun one.
This flew by.
Who would you have? What Nick in any era, any genre, game on the line? You're taking the last shot. What Nick takes the last shot to win the game?
Ooh, okay. Well. Okay. Ooh.
That's a good one.
You said any era. I'm probably gonna go with Swore Clyde. Okay. I'm gonna go.
I like it.
Oh gosh, this is hard, but I'm gonna go. Oh gosh. I'm gonna. This might be unpopular, but I'm going with Jamal Crawford. Okay.
I forgot Jamal played with us.
Yes, it was super nice. He was nice.
He was.
I gotta go. Either Bernard King or Melo.
Yeah, I love those. Yeah, those are gonna be my other two options.
Yeah, Bernard King or Melo.
I gotta give Allen Houston that love.
Oh,
yeah.
You got
I'm gonna let Allen Houston.
All time, yeah.
I'm gonna let Allen Houston take that shot because I trust him.
He proved himself to be trustworthy.
Absolutely.
Oh man. So now I know. Look, I
got one.
Oh, go ahead.
I got one. Your favorite Knicks moment. Any play? Favorite Knicks moment?
That's a good one.
Well, I'm partial to the Allen Houston play. Yeah, obviously we all know it.
To beat the Heat.
Against the Heat.
Yeah. That goes hands down. Just being an Allen Houston fan, there's just no better moment than that. You're gonna probably laugh at this, but it's a Knicks moment, but I got great pleasure out of watching us eliminate the Miami Heat. I think it was in 2001, or I believe it was 2001, and watching Tim Hardaway in that locker room calling Nick Pavetta. That was one of my favorite moments. Watching Tim Hardaway eat those sour grapes.
Oh man.
Yeah.
KB, what you got? You got one?
Mine was the LJ 4-point play, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's my favorite Knicks play.
I'm trying to think. Again, because I'm trying to think. Man.
So many. I know.
There is.
Right, there's a lot to choose from.
There is. There's so many. And I can only imagine what the Garden would have been like back when it was the Pat, Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley, John Stark.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine what it was like then. I guess I have to separate when I was a fan from when through that lineage, because John Stark's dunk.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
The John Stark's dunk.
That one
in contact, because again that was a needed play. That was a needed dunk in context, and you go back and you learn about that play and what was going on with the Bulls and the Knicks and so forth, and where the Garden was. And so I think when I smile every time I see Starks doing anything, connected to the franchise and doing those things, because I do know that dude, he was gonna go. every team needs more John Starks on it, right? They need that mentality of like you're
No
going
doubt.
and get it. So that's one. I do think just the energy in the Garden around the Linsanity days.
That was huge. That was crazy. I mean, that was like such a phenomenon. It was so random and so huge, and like we couldn't even believe it. Like living through that was just like unbelievable. Right. Like this guy, like this Phoenix rises up out of the ashes, like
out of nowhere. Out of nowhere.
And it's crazy.
So now, a little bit. One of the things that me and KB both were introduced to OmniFan in general was the commercial, the MSG commercials. It really, I will say, MSG this year, even from like the opening Let's Go Nick commercials, like, the season starting commercial, the black and white joint is super hard. And I mean, you kind of get pumped up when you watch it.
Yes.
And how did that opportunity come because it seems, just talking to you now, and seeing the commercial, it really translates that is y'all's authentic selves. It really is. It is very authentic.
Thank you for acknowledging that. But we are literally high energy. We're so hype. Like our neighbors hate us because we're always screaming. So they don't really hate us. They actually love us. But like, I'm think that they think when we're cheering during Nick games.
Oh man.
We're so loud. But honestly, it literally just came from us being active on social media. And I believe there was some kind of hashtag that they were asking people to use on social media at one point in time. Say it was hashtag my MSG fandom. Yeah, that was it. And they caught wind of us that way, and then they approached us to do this commercial. We had one last season as well. So like it's been great, having them. It's been a huge blessing because they've also allowed us to continue to connect with our the community, being that COVID took a whole, I mean, it literally stopped us in our tracks because the season was midway. We still had events planned for the rest of the season into the summer. So this MSG commercial has helped us to reconnect and stay connected to everybody.
And to let people that have never seen us before know about OmniFan and what we do and what we're bringing to the Knicks fan community. So it's been a blessing, and to just get that type of exposure it's been amazing for a young budding business like ours.
Absolutely.
What's the future look like? What's the future of OmniFan looks like? What's the future of the Knicks look like?
The future of OmniFan is going even beyond basketball and beyond sports, really. If there's a fan base for something, they can be rewarded for their loyalty, for their engagement. And so that's what we want to show, that we have a scalable platform that doesn't just apply to basketball or just to sports, but it can be applied to different facets and different things that have fan bases. So, we want to continue to just connect with fans and build the fan base, and we want to get the recognition of the big sports industry heads like the ESPNs and the TNTs and all the leagues. But we want to take this beyond sports to any entity that has a fan base, and we just want to connect and just and make the fan. We want to change the fan narrative. We want to put fans at the forefront because the fans are the heartbeat of any organization.
Absolutely.
What is this just came to me. I'm gonna wrap it up. This just came to me. What's the biggest misconception about a Knicks fan?
Well, the biggest conception about a Knicks fan. What do you
misconception? What do they got wrong about Knicks fans?
They get that. Okay,
well,
so go ahead.
They're smart on.
We get a bad rap for
being super temperamental.
Yeah, right. For being temperamental. And it's not that, we're temperamental, but the whole thing is that like we like with your child, you can talk crap about, not to talk crap, but you can discipline your child. You tell them things that they need to correct. And it might not necessarily be what, the next family may have said to their child, but this is your child. You know what I'm saying? You have a connection with your child. And so we get a bad rap for being, too temperamental, too hot and cold. Like we want, all kinds of crazy moves to be made. We're a little irrational sometimes. I've heard we've been called, but we really just want the best. We're an impatient, loyal fan base.
Well, we're actually very patient.
Well,
that's one thing we are, without a doubt.
this point, we are impatient. And so that's why there's so much like divisiveness still, because there's divisiveness between Knicks fans. Some people, it's like you get both sides of the spectrum. But I think that the bad rap is that we're too temperamental and we're too hard on players. And it's just that we're just intelligent. We're just an intelligent fan base,
and we know what these players can do and the level that they can play at. And so when we don't see them performing at that level, like Jen said,
we hold them to a high standard.
Right, you have to. We don't have blinders on, so we see the good and the bad, and so we tell it like
right, exactly. I can still love you, but tell you
right.
Exactly. Yeah, this is phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We did the whole.
Yeah, this has been dope.
We did the whole pod, and we didn't give the one guy we got to give love to that left and came back is Woodson. Look, Woodson is back on. We talked a lot about defense, and Woodson is back. And he's doing his thing with the D, so you gotta give him love. But no, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much. Everybody can follow OmniFan on every social media. So Facebook. I know you're on Instagram as well. Are those the home?
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram are the platforms that we are the most active on. So you can definitely find us at Knicks-themed on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And on YouTube, it's OmniFan.
Excellent. And you guys, ladies, will be back in the Garden for the second half of the season. I'm sure doing a whole bunch of different things. So we'll stay tuned, and we'll definitely be on the lookout for everything you're doing. So it's been amazing. KB, any final words?
I know you guys do virtual events. Can people plug in?
We do
through your
virtual
Facebook
events. We'll have our next virtual event scheduled for sometime in March, this month.
Yeah, towards the end of the month.
But toward the end of the month. So definitely look out for that, because we have been hosting virtual events, watch parties, and roundtable events. So look out for that for sure. Definitely hit on our IG and Facebook and Twitter. We'll be putting all the information for our next event out. But thank you for asking about that. Appreciate it.
This was real dope. It's good to meet y'all.
A pleasure. Likewise. We're family now.
This is the Cheats Movement Podcast. Thank you so much. And until next time, we see it.